Most fathers give their daughters away at a wedding. Mine gave me away in a rain-slicked alley for a stack of blood-stained 50s. You're looking at a man who just sold his own flesh and blood to pay for a losing hand of poker. While I stood there trembling, my stepfather, Jeffery, was fanning a stack of cash with a grin that made my skin crawl. He thought he was getting rid of a burden. He thought he was finally free, but Jeffery just made a deal with the one man who makes the devil look like an amateur, Rossi. I braced myself for the chains. I expected the basement, the cruelty, the life of a slave. But when the car door closed, the most feared Mafia boss in the city didn't look at me with lust. He looked at me with pity, and then he handed me a folder that changed everything. You see, Rossi didn't buy me because he wanted a toy. He bought me because he's been hunting my stepfather for years, and I'm the only piece of evidence he's missing. Why is a billionaire mafia kingpin risking a gang war just to save a girl from a gambling addict? And what did Jeffery do 10 years ago that makes this sale the biggest mistake of his life? You felt that betrayal, didn't you? That sick twist in your stomach when Jeffery counted blood-stained 50s? Then you're exactly who this channel is for. Subscribe now because Elaine's story doesn't pull punches, and neither do I. Notifications on. Let's go. The neon sign outside Lucky's den flickered like a dying heartbeat, red, then black, then red again. Inside, my stepfather Jeffery sat across from a man in a tailored suit who didn't belong in a place that reeked of stale beer and desperation. I watched from the corner booth, my stomach twisting into knots. Jeffery had dragged me here an hour ago, muttering something about insurance and collateral. Now his hands trembled as he stared at his cards a losing hand, judging by the sweat pooling at his temples. "I'm out," Jeffery croaked, throwing down his cards. "I got nothing left." The man in the suit, Rossi, I'd heard someone whisper, didn't blink. "Everyone has something left." Jeffrey's eyes cut to me. That's when I knew. "She's 18, Jeffery said, his voice hollow. "Clean. Never touched. Worth more than whatever I owe." My breath caught. The room tilted. Rossi leaned back, his dark eyes sliding over me with an expression I couldn't read. Not hunger, not disgust. Something colder, calculated. "Meet me in the alley," Rossi said quietly. 10 minutes. "Bring her." Rain hammered the pavement as Jeffery shoved me forward, his grip bruising my arm. Rossi stood beneath a broken streetlight, rainwater streaming down his perfect suit. Behind him, a black car idled like a predator waiting to strike. Jeffery practically threw me at him. "We done?" Jeffery asked, snatching the envelope of cash Rossi offered. Rossi's gaze never left me. "We're just getting started." The car smelled like leather and expensive cologne, nothing like the cigarette-stained upholstery of Jeffery's rusted sedan. I pressed myself against the door, as far from Rossi as the back seat would allow, watching the city lights blur into ribbons of gold and red. He hadn't spoken since we left the alley. Hadn't touched me. Hadn't even looked at me. That somehow made it worse. The mansion rose from the hillside like something out of a nightmare, all iron gates and stone walls that swallowed the moonlight. Guards nodded as we passed, their eyes sliding over me with curiosity but not cruelty. Inside, marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. A woman in her 50s appeared, her gray hair pulled into a neat bun. "Celestine will show you to your room," Rossi said, his voice clipped. "You'll find clothes in the closet, bathrooms stocked. Don't leave the east wing without permission." I stared at him, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the mask to slip. "That's it?" The words escaped before I could stop them. His jaw tightened. "What were you expecting? Chains, a basement, hands that take without asking." "I don't know," I whispered. Something flickered across his face, almost like regret. Then it vanished. "Get some rest, Elaine. Tomorrow we talk about your stepfather." He turned toward a hallway lined with shadows, and why he deserves everything that's coming to him. My blood turned to ice. What did Jeffery do? The knock came at dawn, sharp, businesslike, unforgiving. "You have 15 minutes, Rossi's voice filtered through the heavy door. "Wear the black dress in the closet. We have work to do." Work. As if I was an employee, not a girl bought in a rain-soaked alley. The dress fit like it was made for me, silk that whispered against my skin, elegant but not revealing. When I stepped into the dining room, Rossi was already seated, a tablet in front of him, displaying photographs of men in expensive suits. "Sit." He gestured to the chair beside him, not across, close enough that I could smell his cologne again, cedar and something darker. "Tell me what you see." I blinked at the screen. "I see men." "Look closer." His finger tapped a man with silver hair and a practiced smile. What's wrong with this picture? I studied the image, the way the man's hand hovered near his jacket, the tension in his shoulders, the eyes that scanned the room instead of focusing on the person he was speaking to. He's nervous, I said slowly. Like he's waiting for something bad to happen. Rossi's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. That's Theron Galante. He's been skimming from my shipments for 6 months. My stomach dropped. Why are you showing me this? He closed the tablet, his dark eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. Because Jeffery didn't just sell you to me, Elaine. He sold you to the one man who knows exactly what you witnessed 10 years ago. The room spun. What did I witness? I couldn't sleep. Rossi's words circled my mind like vultures. What you witnessed 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was 8. What could an 8-year-old possibly see that would matter to a man like him? The mansion settled into silence around 2 a.m. I crept through the east wing, trailing my fingers along walls that probably cost more than Jeffrey's entire life. Rossi's office door stood ajar, a sliver of lamplight spilling into the hallway. I shouldn't have gone in. But curiosity is a poison that tastes like answers. The desk was organized chaos folders, photographs, a laptop humming softly. And there, beneath a crystal paperweight, a receipt printed on cheap thermal paper. Transaction: E. Harwell. Amount: $50. Status: acquired. $50,000. That's what I was worth to Jeffery. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat and reached for the folder beside it. Inside were surveillance photos, Jeffery entering buildings I didn't recognize, meeting with men whose faces were circled in red ink, timestamps going back years, bank statements showing deposits that didn't match his poker winnings. And then I saw it. A photograph dated exactly 10 years ago. Jeffery standing beside a black van, its back doors open. Inside, I could barely make out shapes, small shapes wrapped in blankets. A file label read, Cathro trafficking ring, missing children case. My hand flew to my mouth. A shadow fell across the desk. I was wondering when you'd find that, Rossi said from the doorway, his voice soft as a blade. What is this? I whispered. His expression hardened. Proof that your stepfather ran a trafficking operation with the Cadro syndicate. 12 children disappeared that year. Only 3 were ever found. He paused, his jaw tight. You're the only witness who saw the pickup that night. The only one who can connect Jeffery to the van. I ran, past Celestine's concerned shouts, past the guards who reached for me but didn't grab, past the iron gates that somehow miraculously stood open as if the universe itself wanted me gone. The night air bit at my skin through the silk dress, but I didn't care. I couldn't breathe in that mansion, couldn't think with Rossi's eyes dissecting me like I was evidence, not a person. You're the only witness who can bury him. What did that make me? A weapon? A tool? Just another transaction in a world built on blood and lies. My bare feet slapped against wet pavement as I stumbled through unfamiliar streets. The city looked different at 3 a.m. Darker, hungrier, full of shadows that moved with purpose. I didn't know where I was going. A way was enough. A car engine growled behind me. No, not now. Not when I'd finally. The black sedan pulled alongside me, window rolling down with mechanical precision. But it wasn't Rossi's face in the darkness. It was Jeffrey's. Get in the car, Elaine. His voice was different now, harder, stripped of the whining desperation I'd grown up with. You've caused enough trouble. My legs locked. How did you think Rossi's the only one with eyes in this city? He leaned across the passenger seat, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my stepfather's expression. Cold, calculated control. Get in, he repeated. Or I'll show you what happens to little girls who see too much. Oh God, he knows. He's always known. I didn't get in Jeffrey's car. Instead, I ran until my lungs screamed, ducking through alleys and side streets until the sedan's engine faded into the urban hum. A women's shelter took me in, with no questions, just a cot, a locker, and a promise that I was safe. Safe. The word felt like a lie I wanted to believe. 3 months later, I was Delia Kang, a name pulled from a random obituary, a ghost borrowing someone else's life. The gym on 5th Street needed a receptionist. They didn't ask for references. I thought I'd just answer phones and wipe down equipment. But then I saw her coach Brienne, a former MMA fighter with scars that told stories her mouth never would. She moved through the training ring like violence was a language she'd perfected. You keep staring at the heavy bag like it owes you money, she said one evening, catching me after my shift. You want to hit it, or just imagine hitting it? My hands trembled. I don't know how. Everyone knows how. She tossed me a pair of worn gloves. They just forget they're allowed to fight back. 6 months of training turned fear into muscle memory, panic into precision. I taught morning self-defense classes, now showing women how to break holds, how to find their voice when someone tries to take it. I was finally becoming someone Jeffery couldn't touch. Then one morning, a new member walked through the gym doors. Dark suit, darker eyes, a face I'd tried to forget. Rossi Taviano stood in the lobby, watching me like he'd never stopped. "Hello, Elaine," he said quietly. "We need to talk about your stepfather's trial, and why you're the only person who can testify." I should have known peace was temporary. Rossi left his card on the reception desk, heavy stock, embossed lettering, a phone number I refused to call. For 2 weeks, I pretended he didn't exist, that the past was something I could outrun with enough sweat and determination. Then Jeffery found me. It was after my evening class. The gym had emptied except for Coach Brienne in her office, and a few stragglers on the treadmills. I was locking up the equipment room when I heard voices low. Negotiating. Wrong. "She's worth more now." Jeffrey's voice drifted from the lobby. "Trained. Tougher. Your boss will appreciate the upgrade." My blood turned to ice. I peered around the corner and saw him, my stepfather. Looking thinner, more desperate, flanked by 2 men in leather jackets with gang colors I recognized from the news. The Northside Scorpions. Rossi's rivals. "Where is she?" the taller one demanded. Jeffrey's eyes swept the gym and landed on me. Our gazes locked. His lips curled into something that might have been a smile if smiles didn't require humanity. "There," he said, pointing. "That's her. Delia Kang. Elaine Harwell, same merchandise, different packaging." The men started toward me. I backed into the equipment room, my trainer's instincts screaming. 2 against 1, exits blocked, weapons, dumbbells, resistance bands, a fire extinguisher. Then the gym's front door exploded inward. Rossi stood in the shattered frame, flanked by 4 men in black suits, a gun gleaming in his hand. "Jeffery," he said with terrifying calm, "I believe you have something that belongs to me." "She doesn't belong to anyone," I said, my voice cutting through the tension like broken glass. Rossi's eyes flicked to me surprised, maybe even impressed, but he didn't lower his weapon. The Scorpions reached for their guns. Rossi's men mirrored the movement. Jeffery stumbled backward, suddenly realizing he'd orchestrated his own execution. "Elaine," Rossi started. "No." I stepped out of the equipment room, a 20-pound dumbbell gripped in each hand. My arms shook, but my voice didn't. "I'm done running. I'm done being sold. And I'm done with you, Jeffery." My stepfather's face twisted. "You ungrateful little, I kept a roof over your head. Fed you. And this is how you repay me? You sold me. Twice." The weights felt lighter now, fury burning away the fear. "What did you do 10 years ago? What did I see?" His expression shuddered. "You were 8. You don't remember. Try me." Silence stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Jeffery laughed, a broken, manic sound. "You want to know? Fine. That van you saw from your bedroom window? I was loading kids for the Cadro Syndicate. 12 of them. Got paid 10 grand per head." He jabbed a finger toward Rossi. "And your precious savior here? He's been obsessed with that case for a decade because the feds couldn't touch me without a witness. You're not special, Elaine. You're just a loose end he finally found." The room tilted. Rossi's gun lowered slightly, his face carved from stone. "Elaine, I need you to understand. The children," I whispered, the memory surfacing like something drowning. "I saw them crying. I told my mother. She said I had nightmares. But it was real." Jeffery pulled a gun from his jacket. "Then you both die tonight." The gunshot never came. Coach Brienne emerged from her office, a baseball bat connecting with Jeffrey's wrist before he could pull the trigger. The gun clattered across the floor. Rossi's men swarmed the Scorpions while Jeffery crumpled, clutching his shattered arm and screaming. I stood frozen, dumbbells still gripped in white-knuckled fists, watching the man who'd sold me reduced to nothing. Rossi crossed to me, his expression unreadable. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, unable to speak. "Good." He turned to his men. "Take Jeffery to the federal prosecutor. Tell them we have the witness they've been waiting 10 years for." And the Scorpions let them go with a message. "Anyone who touches her answers to me." 6 months later, I stood in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city, signing papers that made me a co-founder of something unprecedented. Elaine's Shield. Advocacy and protection for trafficking survivors. Rossi had liquidated half his empire legitimate businesses, not the blood-soaked ones. Those, he'd dismantled entirely. Walking away from the Mafia with a target on his back he refused to acknowledge. You didn't have to do this, I said, watching him review legal documents with the same intensity he'd once used to hunt enemies. Yes, I did. He looked up, and for the first time, I saw something other than calculation in his eyes. I bought you to use you as evidence, but you became the reason I wanted to be better. He slid a folder across the table, our first case file. Now let's make sure no one else gets sold in an alley. I opened it, and my breath caught. The case file detailed a trafficking ring operating in 3 states. At the bottom, a list of recovered victims. And there, halfway down, Sophia Harwell. Age, 16. Status, located, requesting contact with family. My sister, I whispered. Jeffery told me she ran away when she was 12. Rossi's expression darkened. She didn't run, she was taken. By the same people Jeffery worked for. I looked up at him, tears blurring my vision. She's alive, he confirmed quietly. And she needs us. Sophia is still out there waiting. And so are thousands of others like her. If Elaine's journey from victim to warrior touched your heart, don't let it end here. Subscribe and turn on notifications so we can keep telling the stories that matter. Because the next one could save someone's life. Maybe even someone you love.